We're back in the Westminster section once again. These young fellas had a lot of success with this particular song in England.
I love you before I even knew your name.
Everyone remembers the Beatles and Hendrix, but the real gems? They're the songs nobody talks about. Lost tracks with wild stories, insane riffs, and unreal talent. And in just a second, I'll play you something unforgettable. 20. Calm Me Down, The Human Expression, 1967. This haunting demo was nearly lost forever until a dusty tape reel resurfaced in a record store crate decades later. No one expected what was inside, a raw, hypnotic cry for sanity wrapped in fuzz and feedback. Calm Me Down wasn't even meant for release, it was a shelved demo. But that's what makes it special. You can feel the unfiltered emotion, like someone cracking mid-breakdown in a smoky garage studio, mic on, no one watching. The Human Expression were outsiders even in their own time. Based in California, they never chased fame like other psychedelic bands. They just wanted to create something real, and man did they. The guitars float in a strange dream state, warbling like they're underwater. The vocals? Shaky, pleading. There's a desperation that feels way too intimate. It almost sounds like the singer is fighting his own mind, barely holding it together. And here's the kicker. This song was buried for years, only known to hardcore collectors until a small indie label rescued it in the 90s. Today, it's hailed as one of the rawest, most emotional recordings of the psychedelic era. If you've ever heard music that felt like it wasn't meant for the world, but somehow escaped anyway, this is that song. Stick with me, because in just a second, I'll show you how this same band created one of the most surreal tracks of the decade. The original tape was recorded live to mono in one take. No overdubs, no studio tricks. Just raw emotion captured forever. 19. Not Fade Away, The Barracudas, 1965. A cover, yes, but one that sounds like the Rolling Stones snuck into a high school dance and broke all the rules. There's a reason this version still makes garage rock lovers lose their minds. The Barracudas didn't just redo Buddy Holly's Not Fade Away, they reloaded it, stripped it down to raw noise, and then rebuilt it with gritty vocals and garage fire. And here's what makes it different. It's faster, sloppier, and meaner, like a band with something to prove. The drumming alone feels like someone kicking down a door. There's no polish, no producer cleaning up the edges. That distortion? Pure rebellion. The band wasn't on any big label, and their version never charted. But it became a cult favorite, especially in college radio circles during the garage rock revival of the 80s. You'll notice the snarl in the vocals, a total shift from Buddy Holly's clean delivery. That change? It turned a pop classic into a proto-punk statement. And here's the part few people know. The Barracudas recorded this in a makeshift studio using borrowed amps and homemade soundproofing. They literally built their own wall of sound. So while the world sang along with the clean versions, these guys were burning down the playbook with a grin. One of the band members later said, "We didn't want it perfect. We wanted it loud enough to shake the neighbor's house." 18. I Wish I Could, The Juveniles, 1965. On the surface, it sounds like a simple teenage heartbreak song. But listen closer and you'll hear a frustrated scream hiding behind every chord. This track wasn't written for the charts. It was written for someone who never listened. I Wish I Could is the kind of track that sounds like it was recorded 5 minutes after a breakup. The vocals crack, the guitars are urgent, and the lyrics cut straight through. The Juveniles were just high school kids from Illinois when they laid this down. They scraped together enough cash for one studio session, one shot, And this was the result. And it's raw. There's no fancy arrangement or smooth harmony. Instead, we get a driving riff, clunky percussion, and vocals that wobble between defiance and heartbreak. It's like someone yelling into a pillow, hoping anyone is listening on the other side. The chorus is almost too honest. I wish I could forget you, but I never will. That's not poetry, that's confession. And here's the kicker. They never released the second single. This one track is all we got from them. No album, no reunion. Just a flash of pain pressed into vinyl. And that mystery, that unfinished story, is what gives this song its staying power. The band broke up right after this release. 2 members were drafted to Vietnam, and the master tape was nearly lost in a basement flood. 17. Someday. The Morning Dew. 1968. The first 30 seconds feel like you're falling backward into a dream. Soft vocals, swirling reverb, and a melody that seems to float mid-air. But by the end, you're completely lost in space. Someday is one of those songs that sneaks up on you. At first, it plays like a slow ballad, but then the tempo shifts and the guitars start stretching like elastic, and suddenly, you're drifting through a soundscape that feels bigger than the studio it was born in. Morning Dew wasn't just another garage band. They were obsessed with pushing boundaries. They fused folk, psych, and garage rock into this hazy, emotionally charged style that no one else could replicate. Someday captures the moment where garage rock grew up, when teen angst met full-blown existential dread. And you can hear that transformation in real time. The vocals are pleading, the guitars sound like they're unraveling, and the final 30 seconds? Pure sonic breakdown, like the tape is falling apart with the band. The Morning Dew's later work became darker, heavier, and more experimental, but Someday remains their most vulnerable recording. The song was recorded in Wichita, Kansas, in a studio that charged them $25 per hour. They maxed out their entire budget in 4 takes. Stick with me, because up next, you'll meet a band that said goodbye without ever saying a word, and still left an echo. 16. I Don't Need You. King Richard and the Knights. 1965. What happens when a breakup song doesn't beg for a second chance? When it stands tall, spits venom, and walks away grinning? This is that song, and it's absolutely glorious. I Don't Need You isn't just defiant, it's electric. From the opening riff, you know this track means business. No build-up, no hesitation, just a garage rock slap to the face. King Richard and the Knights were based in Albuquerque, New Mexico, far from the music meccas of LA or New York. But somehow their regional single started making waves in underground scenes. And it's easy to see why. The vocals are cocky, the guitar licks come in like punches, and the production? Surprisingly clean for a garage band. But don't let that fool you, it's still dirty in all the right ways. Here's the twist. This song was recorded in a converted church. The stained glass windows gave the place killer acoustics, and they used just 2 microphones. The result? A sound that feels huge despite its lo-fi roots. The lead guitarist, Richard Jaramillo, yes, King Richard himself, was known locally as the guy who could outplay a radio. No joke, people would stop mid-conversation when this song came on. A local radio station accidentally played it during prime time. It got so many requests, they thought it was a national release and added it to regular rotation. 15. Your Love Will Die. The Vandals. 1967. Your love will die. Before punk exploded in the 70s, the Vandals were already channeling its energy. Loud, aggressive, and completely unconcerned with your feelings. This track? It's the musical version of a burned love letter. Your Love Will Die opens with a sharp, fuzzed-out guitar that immediately puts you on edge. Then the vocals cut in. Bitter, almost sneering. It's not sorrow, it's vengeance. The Vandals weren't just angry, they were surgical. Every note is tight, every pause deliberate. It's like they were trying to exorcise a toxic relationship through sound. This track came out of Texas, where garage rock was taking on a harder edge, and the Vandals leaned all the way in. They didn't want to sound like Heartbreak, they wanted to hurt you with it. The line that stings the most? You'll wake up cold someday wondering why you never stayed. It hits like a curse, a prediction, and probably a promise. They only recorded a handful of songs, but this one became infamous among vinyl collectors for its intensity. Copies of the original 45 go for hundreds of dollars today. Not bad for a breakup track with no chart history. A rumor spread that the lead singer wrote the lyrics after being left at the altar. He never confirmed it, but he never denied it either. Stay close, because next, we're diving into a song that trades anger for soul-searching, and the result is just as powerful. 14, To Save My Soul, The Freedom 5, 1966.
To save my soul.
This one doesn't hit you like a punch, it creeps in like a thought you've been trying to ignore. And once you hear it, you won't stop thinking about it. To Save My Soul feels like a garage rock sermon. It opens with a slow, brooding rhythm and vocals that sound more like confessions than lyrics. This isn't about dancing, this is about redemption. The Freedom 5 weren't huge, they weren't flashy. They were 5 guys from Ohio who wanted to blend rock with something deeper, something that made you sit still. And in 1966, when most bands were singing about girls and surfboards, these guys were singing about consequences. The guitar work is surprisingly restrained, like it's holding something back. Every note feels like a question. And then the chorus lands, sudden, heavy, full of regret. If I had one more chance, I'd do it right. They recorded this on a shoestring budget in a basement studio with homemade reverb tanks, literally old oil drums filled with springs. But the imperfections only add to the weight. No one talks about this track, which is crazy because it captures something most songs don't even try to say. What if the biggest mistake was your own? The band played this live only once before breaking up. That single performance was recorded by a fan who still has the reel in his attic. 13. You Can't Say We Never Tried, The Blues Things, 1966. Ever heard a goodbye that feels like both a hug and a punch in the chest? That's this song. Gentle, honest, and quietly devastating. The Blue Things were one of the few Midwestern bands to actually land a major label deal in the mid-60s. But instead of chasing a radio hit, they made this, a soft-spoken breakup ballad with psychedelic overtones and killer harmonies. You Can't Say We Never Tried doesn't scream, it sighs. The vocals are beautifully layered, full of warmth but laced with exhaustion. It's the sound of someone walking away, not because they want to, but because they have to. And the lyrics? Man, they hurt. We gave it our best, but the fire burned out. No accusations, no blame, just the truth. But don't mistake softness for weakness. The instrumentation is elegant, the tempo steady, and the mood unshakable. It takes guts to write a love song that doesn't end in begging, but in acceptance. Here's something wild. This was their B-side. The label didn't think it was catchy enough for radio. But fans? They flipped the record and never flipped it back. In 1969, Kurt Cobain listed this track in one of his teenage mixtapes. Years later, it was found in a notebook next to early Nirvana lyrics. Up next, a mysterious track with a name, no backstory, and a melody that refuses to fade. You're gonna want to hear this. 12. Heidi, The Infinitives, 1966. No one knows who Heidi really was, but after hearing this song, you'll feel like you've met her in a dream. And once the melody starts, you can't shake it, like a name you can't forget. Heidi is simple but hauntingly effective. It opens with soft, melancholic guitar and vocals so delicate they almost sound whispered. There's no backbeat to dance to, just a slow, emotional unraveling. The Infinitives came out of a tiny town in Missouri. They recorded this track in a rented radio station after hours, laying it down in just 2 takes. No producer, no manager, just raw talent and a $35 session fee. What makes Heidi stand out is its minimalism. There's no overproduction, no elaborate solos, just a gentle, aching melody and a singer pouring everything into a single name. Heidi, I can't find the words, but you already know. The song never explains who she is. Was she real? Was she a metaphor? The mystery only adds to its magic. Collectors call this one of the rarest Midwest garage ballads ever pressed. Less than 300 vinyl copies exist. And here's the kicker. One copy sold for over $700 in 2014. Not because it's flashy, but because it's true. Years later, a band member confessed in an interview that Heidi wasn't a person. It was a code name for a girl his parents forbade him to date. 11. Mirage, The Pastels, 1965. 3 chords, 1 dusty garage, and a whole lot of teenage chaos. Mirage is what garage rock was meant to be. Loud, fast, and totally unapologetic. From the first beat, you're hit with a familiar rhythm, that unmistakable Louie Louie groove, but the Pastels twisted just enough to make it their own. The guitar jangles, the drums stumble slightly, and the vocals, half sung, half shouted, pure energy in its rawest form. The Pastels hailed from Pennsylvania and recorded this during their senior year of high school. They pressed just 500 copies and handed them out at local gigs. Little did they know, that record would become a garage rock grail decades later. What makes Mirage so powerful is how honest it sounds. This isn't about getting famous, this is about making noise with your friends and seeing what sticks. The chorus chants feel spontaneous, like they were written 10 minutes before the session. But that's what makes it beautiful. It's reckless in the best way. A snapshot of youth frozen in sound. And if you listen carefully, the ending isn't polished. The guitarist misses a chord, but they kept it in. Why? Because it was real. One original copy of this record was found taped inside a high school yearbook. It was hidden for nearly 40 years until someone opened it at a garage sale. Coming up, what happens when sunshine harmonies meet psychedelic haze? The next track takes you there and leaves you chasing the light. 10. Run to the Sun, Sunset Love, 1967.
My son, you can win.
Ever heard a song that feels like you're floating through golden clouds, but with a sense that something's about to go wrong? That's the eerie beauty of Run to the Sun, and once it starts, you're not coming back the same. Sunset Love didn't make it big, but this track? It's a kaleidoscope of sound, dreamy harmonies layered over jangly guitars and echoing vocals that seem to stretch across the sky. It feels like California sunshine melting into a surreal late afternoon haze. The band was heavily influenced by the Mamas and the Papas, but they added something strange, a touch of melancholy that lingers beneath all that sweetness. The lyrics speak of escape, of running towards something brighter, but never quite reaching it. They recorded this on the edge of Hollywood with leftover studio time from another artist who canceled last minute. They only had 2 hours, but what they created sounds like it took a year. The vocals soar in that signature 60s harmony style, but there's tension underneath. It's a love song, sure, but also a goodbye. Collectors often refer to Run to the Sea as the prettiest song you've never heard. and once you do, you'll understand why. The song was featured in a lost indie film from 1968, only rediscovered in 2010 when a reel was found behind an old theater wall in Santa Cruz, California. 9. Relax Your Mind, The Frantics, 1968.
Relax your mind.
There are no lyrics, no verses, no chorus, just a vibe so smooth it feels like floating underwater with your eyes closed. Relax Your Mind is a journey, a completely instrumental track that somehow says everything without a single word. It starts soft, then gradually pulls you in with layers of reverbed guitar and distant keyboard flourishes. The Frantics were mostly known for their rockabilly roots, but this song marked a total shift in sound. They wanted to create something that could calm nerves and scramble your thoughts all at once. Spoiler, they nailed it. The song was never meant for release. It was a warm-up track recorded during downtime, but when the engineer heard it, he begged them to press it. And here's what makes it so hypnotic. They used a trick with reel-to-reel tape running multiple loops in reverse behind the lead guitar. It created a swirling, dreamlike echo that sounded like nothing else at the time. Psych fans called it stoner jazz. But even if you're stone cold sober, this track still bends your brain. A 2022 neuroscience podcast used Relax Your Mind during a meditation segment and saw their downloads spike 300% in 1 week. Stick around, because next, we're heading into murky territory with a band that rapped double meanings in a fishing song and got away with it. 8. Crawdad, The Colonials, 1965.
I've been fishing for crawdad. I've been fishing for crawdad.
At first, you think it's just a playful little tune about catching crawdads down by the river. But listen closer and you'll realize this song isn't really about fishing at all. Crawdad is a masterclass in innuendo. The Colonials took traditional folk lyrics and twisted them into a garage rock groove with sly, suggestive undertones. And the result? A track that somehow made it past radio censors, despite winks in nearly every line. The vocals are sly, the rhythm bounces like a back porch jam session, and the guitar keeps things deceptively upbeat. But then the singer drops lines like, "Come along, gal, bring your crawdad net." Yeah, you get it now. This wasn't just some backwoods novelty song, it was clever, subversive, the kind of track you'd play around your parents, while your friends giggled at the meaning you weren't supposed to catch. The Colonials were from Louisiana, and they infused every second of this track with swampy swagger. They recorded it live with background noise from a nearby bar bleeding into the take, and the band loved it so much they kept it. Collectors now praise Crawdad as one of the funniest and filthiest deep cuts of the 60s, but you'd only know if you really listened. A cleaned up version was once played at a state fair, but halfway through, the organizers pulled the plug when the lyrics hit too close to home. 7. I Found Another Girl, The Dirt Merchants, 1966. Breakup songs usually beg for forgiveness, but this one, it flips the script and moves on, with swagger, style, and a killer riff to match. I Found Another Girl is a blast of pure garage rock confidence. The guitar hits like a siren from the start, and within seconds, you know this isn't a sob story. It's a mic drop. The Dirt Merchants weren't big, but they knew how to make a statement. They recorded this in a single afternoon, tracking it live with no edits, just raw emotion and crunchy distortion. And it worked. Big time. The lead vocals? Straight up fire. There's a sneer in every line, especially when he spits, "She's not like you, she actually cares." Ouch. Behind the scenes, the band was dealing with the real drama. The frontman had just ended a long relationship days before the session, so when he sang those lines, they weren't lyrics, they were revenge. The single barely got regional play, but over time it became a favorite on college radio and underground mixtapes. It's since been reissued on vinyl reprints for garage rock collectors. A handwritten version of the lyrics was discovered in a breakup letter the singer never sent. He kept it taped to his guitar until the day the band split. Next up, one of the wildest psychedelic instrumentals ever recorded. A track that doesn't float, it launches. 6. Saturn is just a few days away. Buzzsaw, 1969. No vocals, no lyrics, just a sonic rocket ship blasting you out of Earth's orbit. And once it takes off, you better hold on, because there's no coming back. Saturn is just a few days away isn't a song, it's a launch sequence. Buzzsaw, a short-lived experimental outfit from Ohio, built this instrumental as a tribute to the Apollo missions, and it feels like it. From the very first note, you're floating through cosmic distortion and feedback that somehow never loses control. It opens with a low hum, like distant engines firing up, and then boom! The guitar kicks in, echoing like it's bouncing off the rings of Saturn itself. The drumming, unpredictable, chaotic, like meteors pounding through space. The band used custom-built effects pedals, including one that reversed tape delay while recording. It gave the entire track this swirling, upside-down feeling that's still tough to replicate with modern tech. Buzzsaw only released one record, and this was the B-side. But fans of psychedelia call it one of the most ambitious underground tracks of the late 60s. And get this, astronomers at a planetarium in 1972 actually used the song for a Saturn light show. No lie, they said it sounded the way space looks. One band member later claimed he played the main riff while staring at a NASA poster in total darkness, letting the reverb guide his fingers. No rehearsals, just instinct. 5. Psychedelic Feelin', The Krells, 1967. This track doesn't ask for your attention, it grabs it by the collar and throws you headfirst into a sonic wormhole. And halfway through, you won't even know what planet you're on. Psychedelic Feelin' lives up to its name, and then some. The Krells went deep into the freakout zone with fuzzed out guitars, warping organ sounds, and a tempo that never sits still. It's wild, unpredictable, and a little dangerous. Like a kaleidoscope on fire. They recorded it in a tiny studio in Oregon with gear that was already falling apart. But instead of fixing anything, they leaned into the chaos. Buzzing amps, left in. Off-key organ, boosted in the mix. The result is one of the most authentic trips on wax. And here's the coolest part. They pressed only 200 copies and sold them at their high school graduation. No radio, no label, just raw, acid-laced energy handed out in gymnasium parking lots. The chorus? A swirling chant that sounds like it's coming from inside your own head. And by the time it fades out, you're not even sure it was real. A college professor once used this song in a psychology class to simulate altered perception, and half the students said it made them feel like their mind was melting. Coming up next, a dark anthem from a band that recorded one song, vanished, and left behind a melody that refuses to be forgotten. 4. Never Existed, The Basement Wall, 1966. It's eerie, emotional, and it sounds like the final breath of a band that knew they'd be forgotten. Never Existed isn't just a song, it's a ghost. From the opening chord, you can feel something's off, in the best way. The guitars don't shimmer, they moan. The drums feel like a slow heartbeat. And the vocals? Flat out haunting. You don't listen, you linger. The Basement Wall came from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They were local legends, ripping up teen clubs and college parties with fierce live sets. But this track? This wasn't meant for the stage. It was personal, quiet, and full of shadows. The lyrics unfold like a fading memory. I try to hold on, but maybe we were never real. It's breakup poetry wrapped in existential dread. And nobody saw it coming from a band known for their live energy. The song was buried as a B-side and never promoted. In fact, some copies don't even list the title. But once garage rock collectors got their hands on it, Never Existed became a cult obsession. And here's the most chilling part. After recording this, the band split. No warning, no goodbye tour, they vanished. The master tape sat forgotten in a shoebox for 25 years until a band member's nephew digitized it and uploaded it under Unknown 60s Demo. It got 2 million views. 3. Optical Sound, The Human Expression, 1967. Get ready, because we've officially reached full psychedelic warp. Optical Sound isn't just trippy, it's a full sensory overload wrapped in 3.5 minutes of sonic paranoia. The Human Expression was no ordinary band. They were thinkers, experimenters, outsiders. And this track proves it. Opening with a guitar so drenched in effects, it sounds like your speakers are melting. Add in reverb-heavy vocals and lyrics about altered perception, and you've got something that feels like a panic attack in slow motion. Optical Sound came at the peak of the psychedelic wave, but it stood apart. While other bands were singing about love and peace, the Human Expression was dissecting reality itself. Lines like, "The colors burn through my eyes feel uncomfortably real," like someone experiencing a trip they didn't want. The band reportedly recorded this during an actual LSD session, with the vocalist locked in a soundproof booth, lights off, just a red lava lamp for company. That explains a lot. It didn't chart. It wasn't radio friendly. But decades later, it's considered a defining track of psychedelic garage rock. When Quentin Tarantino was asked what 60s track he wished he'd used in a film, he said Optical Sound, but added, "It might be too intense, even for me." Keep watching, because the next track is an emotional gut punch from a garage band that sounded like they were trying to hold the world together with their bare hands. 2. My World is Upside Down, The Shames, 1966.
And my world is upside down.
It hits you like a storm. Fast, chaotic, and emotionally charged. This isn't just garage rock, it's a meltdown on vinyl, and it still sounds dangerous. My World is Upside Down is what happens when teenage desperation meets musical lightning. The Shames were high schoolers from Ipswich, Massachusetts, with a DIY attitude and a chip on their shoulder. They didn't wait for permission, they just plugged in and played like the walls were closing in. The guitars screech, the rhythm section stumbles and stutters on purpose, and the vocals? Absolutely unhinged. The singer doesn't sound like he's performing, he sounds like he's pleading for help. The lyrics are raw and messy. My head's been spinning, I can't see straight. She said goodbye and now it's too late. No metaphors, just pain. And here's the crazy part. They recorded it in the back of a local print shop, surrounded by stacks of newspapers. They ran wires through a vending machine to power the amps. It was so lo-fi, it's perfect. The single barely made it out of New England, but collectors today call it one of the most intense garage recordings ever made. You can feel the urgency, like they knew it was their only shot. One fan found the original acetate in a shoebox at a flea market. It sold for over $900 on eBay before anyone even digitized it. 1. I Can Take You to the Sun, The Misunderstood, 1966.
I can take you to the sun, but you don't want to go.
This is it, the crown jewel of underground psychedelia. A song so far ahead of its time it was banned by British radio for sounding too radical. You heard that right. I Can Take You to the Sun opens like a spaceship lifting off. Guitars swirling in reverse delay, an Eastern-influenced drone humming beneath, and vocals that glow with cosmic promise. The Misunderstood weren't trying to be pop stars. They were building soundtracks for altered states of consciousness. Originally from Riverside, California, the band moved to London to chase their sound. There, under the guidance of John Peel, yes, that John Peel, they created this absolute masterpiece. The lyrics hinted spiritual ascension, drug-induced visions, and the limits of human perception. Step into the light, let go of the ground. It's not subtle, and that's why it works. Critics now call it the Sgt. Pepper that never happened. But back then, it scared people. Radio banned it. Labels pulled back. And the Misunderstood? They dissolved under visa issues and military drafts. But this song survived. And today, it's a sacred relic for psych collectors and music historians alike. John Peel once said, had the Misunderstood stayed together, they would have changed music history. This track is the proof. And now you've heard it. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and dive into more forgotten legends from music history. We've got stories, sounds, and surprises you won't find anywhere else. Watch the next video. Your new favorite song might be waiting.